Beto Altamirano's interest in public policy and community involvement has led him to work at the White House, in the Office of U.S. Trade Representative, U.S. Senate, and the Alamo Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. Driven by his passion for technology and civic engagement, in 2017 he founded City Flag Incorporated, a technology company that developed the first social network for 311 services, or 311 services. It allows residents to report infrastructure issues while building a more inclusive local government. Beto is a recipient of the MacArthur Foundation grant and the Forbes 30 Under 30 list maker. He holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Government from the University of Texas in Austin and a Harvard Executive Education Certificate. Let's put our hands together for social entrepreneur Beto Altamirano. Would you prefer? Yes.
Well, it is a good-looking crowd, but of course, it's San Antonio. That's what we expect. All right, so I'm going to play, the presentation. It's going to be a quick six-minute, presentation. Let's do this. Okay, so it was the summer of 2018. I'm in the middle of Africa, giving a speech to 800 entrepreneurs, students, and leaders of the country of Chad. And to my left, I have the vice president. He's staring me down. And on the other side, there's a soldier with a giant machine gun. Why was I here? 3 years prior to my visit, Boko Haram had terrorized the region. With bombings and shootings, it was a dangerous time for an American to be visiting Chad. So you might be wondering what I was doing there. I was born and raised in Mission, Texas, a city sandwiched between two cultures, just like my upbringing, which allowed me to have this bicultural experience and built empathy in me. And that has helped me better understand people and cultures. And that passion for people drove me to a career in public service, where I had the opportunity to work in the U.S. Senate and in the White House. And in the Senate, I was working for Senator John Kerry at the time. And there I learned about the many challenges that government faces when communicating with constituents. So when I returned to Texas, I started organizing, communities, knocking on doors, and the same issues we're facing, in city environments. So I got together with my co-founders, and we built City Flag, a platform that allows the improvement of communities through the use of technology. It's about the quality of life. That was the goal, which, by the way, developed the 311 SA app, and everyone here should download it, seriously. But, part of these experiences has also opened many doors. One of them was an invitation by the State Department to participate as a Mandela Fellow, where you as an entrepreneur have an impact in the country of any country in Africa. But I decided to do Chad because that's where I met Hamid Kayar. Hamid Kayar is an entrepreneur from the country of Chad who is leading a lot of efforts in regards to technology and innovation. And so the idea here was to build some sort of platform that could design the next innovation summit for that country. And it was challenging, right? Because Michael Henderson and I, who partner in this initiative, we were debating what to do. How can we launch this initiative, right? So the next 3 months, through Skype and Google Hangouts, we were able to design the first innovation summit for the country of Chad. We plastered the entire walls of the country, with our advertisement, you name it, right? And when we arrived to the country, we visited universities, high schools, met with people, ate their delicious food, and tried their delicious beer. And at one point, Michael and I found out that we were like the protagonists of the story. And that's not what we wanted. So we decided to step back and let the organizing team and Hamid guide the conversation. So then they started doing interviews on national TV. Their story was being heard by thousands. We were inspiring a lot of people. The night before the summit, we had dinner with Hamid's father. And he was telling us stories about how inspired he was by the global movements of the 80s and 90s, and by American politics at that time. And he told me about this quote by President John F. Kennedy, which is, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. And as a minister of cultural affairs, he took that philosophy on his everyday life. It made me realize the soft power that Americans have throughout the world, reaching every corner of the world. Yes, everyone here. But with that comes a responsibility to being well-intentioned with our policy and our civic life. I mean, when we were having dinner, CNN was playing in the background in English. True story. And so I think that responsibility starts at home. It starts here in San Antonio, for example. Our influence goes beyond what we imagine. I'm a product of that. I was an entrepreneur, a San Antonian, in the country of Chad, influencing the impact on innovation and technology. So I strongly believe in that. The day of the summit, I remember we were expecting 200 attendees, but 1,000 people showed up. And half of them, 50% of them, were women. We had workshops on government technology, agriculture and innovation, education and technology, you name it. And I remember I was so passionate, I was so pumped, that I got on stage and I started giving this speech about urging the government to start a co-working space where entrepreneurs can gather, tell their stories, and build companies. Yeah, that's when the vice president was staring at me, right? And, but I was not the only one, you see. The following days, a lot of students stood up and they started telling their stories about why the government should fund a platform where they could, build their companies. 6 months later, after that summit that we had, the government agreed to fund the first innovation hub in the country of Chad. Yes. Where hundreds of entrepreneurs have gone through programs and they have built their companies and they realized their dreams. And it all started with an idea to nurture innovation in the country of Chad. And I tell this story because it's about the human experience. It's about the community building exercise, one that always continues. And I feel here at home, we have that responsibility to shape the future of our communities. The world is watching. The world is watching. And I met, many doers like Hamid here in San Antonio. So I'm optimistic about the direction that we have as a community, as a city. Things are not going to get easier, but we have to come together and always strive for excellence and lead and be inspirational because it starts with you. It starts with you, San Antonio. Thank you. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
There we go. So I know you mentioned a little bit about how you have this kind of bicultural experience growing up. I'm kind of curious, did you, talk a little bit about your family and, your upbringing and how that led you to becoming engaged in public policy and engaged in your community?
Yeah, and I'm going to tell this story, but I used to be shy about it. I was a little bit embarrassed when I was younger about it, but, one night I got a call from my father. He was worried on the other line. And I was asking him what's going on, and he said, look, I'm not gonna make it home that night or any other night, but you should still believe in the American dream. You should believe in building community and follow your dreams. He was being deported, and I was 18 years old. And every time I tell the story, I get a little bit emotional, right? But that's what led me to public service, right? That's what led me to get involved in government. That's what led me to work in the White House and the Senate. I wanted to learn about how and why the policies today affect our everyday life. And so, I think it's important to tell our stories because that's how we build community.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I know that's...
Thank you, everyone.